Today, I'm joined by Glen Gerreyn to discuss all things hope and purpose for our students and educators. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Well-Led Schools podcast. I'm your host, Adrienne Hornby, school wellbeing consultant, strategist, and former school leader. Together with experts and real school leaders from across the world, we deliver insights and conversations that dive into what it truly takes to support staff wellbeing, strengthen school culture, and lead well with staff wellbeing in mind. Today's guest on the podcast is Glen Gerreyn, a global voice for hope who has reached over 1 million people worldwide and is the director and co-founder of the Hopeful Institute. Glen engages with students, parents, teachers, all staff, sporting groups, and community leaders with his rare ability to challenge and inspire while making every individual feel seen. He's known for translating modern psychological research into practical insights that reignite purpose, motivation, and possibility. And I really experienced that on today's interview. I myself, before today, had the privilege of hearing Glen speak during my time as a school leader at the very beginning of my wellbeing consultancy journey. And he indeed motivated me to be bold and brave and take the leap from safety into this very purpose-driven work. In today's conversation, we explore what hope and purpose means for students and educators, strategies to motivate young people, and how we can reconnect with our own purpose. This is one you are not going to want to miss. Stay tuned. Glen, welcome to the Well-Led Schools podcast. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on today. I don't think that you'll probably remember, of course not, because you've had so many sessions, but around, I think 5 or 6 years ago, I heard you speak and it catapulted me into wanting to do this work.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
You certainly inspired a vision and hope and purpose in me to leave education. Not that I was ever unhappy, but go out and do work that felt truly fulfilling because I watched you. So
wow. Oh, that's
thank
awesome.
you.
So nice to hear. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and thank you for being here today. So I love to start my podcast just to learn a little bit about my guests. I'd love to know, what's one thing that you do to personally prioritize or look after your own health or well-being?
Wow. Great first question. This is kind of like my jam because my work is obviously centered around health and well-being, motivation, and hope. So not only is this my work, it's actually my life. It's actually who I am. I heard an interview by Michael Jackson was being interviewed. I don't know if you're a fan of his music.
Yeah.
But when he was 10 years old, he was being interviewed, and the interviewer was asked him, can you describe your performance? And he said this, he said, whatever I sing, that's what I really mean. Like when I'm singing a song, I don't just sing it unless I mean it. And when I teach something in schools, I make sure that I'm either have done it or I'm currently doing it. And that places me, I guess, in a place of authenticity, or being authentic and being an authority in that area. So I don't know if I can just give you one thing that I'm prioritizing right now, but let me give you a couple. At the moment, I'm actually, every January, I start by doing a 21-day intermittent fast. So where I fast for between 16 and 18 hours.
Oh, I thought you meant for 21 days. I was like,
no. That's insane. Yeah, that's insane. No. So each day about 16 to 18 hours. So I basically stop eating around 6 p.m. and then start eating again around 10 or 11 the next morning. And a lot of people do intermittent fasting, obviously for weight loss, but I mainly do it to obviously reduce inflammation, enhance brain function, and cellular repair. So that's kind of one thing that I like to start the year. And it also helps in terms of my discipline for the year, because I'm about to go into a 200 days speaking. So I like to set that up, do that up front. Another thing I do to prioritize my well-being is I work out in the gym every single day. Do 50 push-ups every single morning. because I read in Men's Health magazine when I was 30 that if you do that, once you hit 30, you lose about 10% muscle mass every decade. So at like 52, I'm literally fighting against the decay.
52, Glenn, you don't look a day over 30.
Yeah, thank you. So I try and do that as much as I can. And another thing I've done, this actually started last September, was to, I guess, reaffirm my commitment to young people. And with the social media ban that's in place in Australia, was I deleted Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok all off my phone last September. And I feel like my headspace is so much more clearer. And I just want to, because I can't go out and tell young people, hey, social media is bad, and then spend all my time on social media.
That's
So,
right.
so I really wanted to do that to, stand with young people in that place. Because I heard this great quote by a neuroscientist, and he said, we are training our brains to pay attention to crap. And so I just want to even do that for myself.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, you sound like you 100% embody authenticity by practicing what you preach. And then I think we could get along and hang out, because I do all of those things as well.
Awesome.
All of them.
Wow, great.
And I have a little bit more trouble with the social media one. I will go through periods of removing it, then it creeps back in, and then removing it. And to be able to really know and understand why that's so important, I dive into the learning around it. So all of the podcasts I've been listening to at the moment are all around focus and social media and the doom scrolling. And one I really love, if anybody else is struggling with this, and you might have read it yourself, is Stolen Focus by Johan Hari. Johan Hari. And even for those who feel like they don't have time to read the book, I just searched him up on Apple Podcasts, and then all of the episodes he featured on to speak about that were there. And he's a brilliant storyteller. He's an incredible mind and can explain and articulate what's happening in this generation with technology and the benefits of taking some time off. But he also really realistically shares why it's so hard for us to step away, which helps to explain why young people and adults are almost magnetized to our phones.
Oh, 100%. I'm reading a book at the moment. I've just finished reading it. It's called Every Screen on the Planet. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's the story of TikTok, and it goes into, how it started. Like, one of the founders said, my fundamental belief is that people are lazy, and that if we can just get them to not even get to a place where they're actually even choosing anymore, that we choose for them, then we can actually help generate a type of addiction. Because we live today in what's called an addiction economy. Back in the day, it was like tobacco. But today, the top, I think 10 out of the top biggest companies in the world all focus on addiction. How can we get people to just keep on scrolling?
I know, isn't it awful?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So
it makes people money, and that's their end goal.
That's exactly right. So that's why I want to try and do that. We'll see how long it lasts, but I'm actually loving not having it on my phone.
Me too. And I've started, I stole my son's paint by numbers over the break. So he's like, Mom, that's mine. And I'm like, no, I need something to
awesome.
do.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I sat there.
Yeah.
It looks great. He's only 6. He'll pop in and say, can I help? And I'm like, oh, okay. So we've been doing it together. So just trying to replace it.
Well, that's right. And I'm finding out, I was reading a lot, but now I'm even reading more. And, my daughter handed me because I'm not reading enough fiction. My daughter in her class at uni was studying contemporary literature, and she come across these amazing books. So she keeps gifting them to me. So it's a great thing for me to get.
Yeah, I love an autobiography because it feels like fiction, but it's a true story and it's inspiring. I love a story of hope. So that's how I get my fiction into. We have the same brains, but in different body. We're working on the same thing. And one other thing I know that you like to do is your new sauna that you got at the end of last year, which is my ultimate goal. It's on my vision board for the year.
Do it. Do it. I'm telling you, I try and get in the sauna at least 4 or 5 times a week for about 20 minutes. And it just is because I'm trying to get back into athletics, into
Yeah.
running again. And so just like I said, at my age, the recovery
Yes.
is really, really important. I heard LeBron spends 2 million a year on recovery,
Yeah.
from cryo chambers to physiotherapists to everything. And David Goggins stretches for like 2 hours a day. So
Oh
I
my
don't have
gosh.
$2 million and I don't have 2 hours, but I can spend 20 minutes in a sauna.
I know, and it's so great.
You
I
know?
remember when I commented on your post, you said, "Oh, all the kids get in as well." And it's a
Yeah,
your
and
way to connect. You've got a big
it
sauna though.
it
It's not like a
yeah, we
one-man
have
sauna and you're
no,
sitting
no,
on
it's
each
no,
other.
exactly, and it's
Yes.
great for the kids because they can't take their phones into the sauna.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I've got 20 minutes of uninterrupted time with my kids to
yeah,
just wind down and just talk about the
and
day. So
talk,
it's just been
talk.
awesome.
How wonderful. Well, for those of you who aren't tuned in on the video chat, you need to just to see how all of these things contribute to Glenn looking absolutely incredible for 52. Glenn, for those of who are listening who don't know you, apart from what
Yeah,
they've just learned about you now, can
yeah,
you
sure.
tell us all a little bit about yourself, your work, and the absolutely incredible story that's led you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. Well, back in the day when I was in high school, I was a state champion sprinter, qualified for the World Juniors, and pretty much had my sights set up on the up and coming Commonwealth Games and Olympic teams. But towards the end of high school, towards the end of my year 12, I got hit with an incurable disease called ulcerative colitis,
Mhm.
which is very similar to Crohn's disease. The doctors put me on a disability pension and told me never be able to work again, let alone run. So I lived like that, shut up at home for 5 years,
Wow.
basically unable to work, unable to really leave the home. And then at 22, I read Nelson Mandela's book, Long Walk to Freedom. I got so inspired by his story, to see a black man go from 27 years in prison to president of a nation, that I took the $2 that I had that was left over from the disability pension that week, raised money through government grants and business sponsorship, and built a youth centre in Queensland.
Oh,
From that, I won Young Australian of the Year in 1998 for Queensland Community Service. And then schools, companies, football teams then started asking me to come in and just share my story. And so I've gone from sharing my story to now working in close to 300 high schools around the world. I work with first 15 rugby teams, rowing squads, athletic squads. The NRL had me come in and work with all their rookies based on one of my books called Men of Honor, which is around sexual ethics for young men. Um, and at this point, I feel like I'm living my dream,
yeah.
doing the thing that I was born to do, which was actually to bring hope to as many young people as I possibly can.
Absolutely. And why youth and a youth centre? Why do you think focusing on our youth is so important, I guess, towards a more hopeful and purpose driven future?
Yeah, well, for me, I went to a Catholic school, and Catholics are super awesome at helping young people understand community service and social justice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, when you got out of school, the whole thing was to make a difference in your community. So youth center for me was like, hey, that would be a cool way that I can make a difference in young people's lives.
And I see it even now, I guess, from my past profession of being a teacher, how early we really need to intervene and support. And having young boys now, and
Mm,
I'm sure it's the
yeah,
same for girls, but I've done a little bit more research into boys and
yeah,
those teen years in particular. It's about having
yeah,
those, in particular, for boys, male role models or role models
yeah,
around them in those years when they can tend to, I guess, disconnect from parents and
yeah,
gravitate towards only friends. So
totally.
building something like that is being able to support, as you said, those character strengths and the character building of these really young people from such a
That's
young
right. And,
age.
and we all need mentors, right? I mean,
Yeah.
most of us understand the importance of mentor because we've been mentored before. And those
Yeah.
of us who haven't been mentored wish that we probably had someone
Yeah.
in our life to help guide us. Because, some people think, oh, the best way to learn is from your own mistakes. No, that's the worst way to learn. The best way to learn is from
Yes.
other people's experiences because then you don't
Mm.
carry the scars of
Yeah,
those mistakes.
definitely. And those stories. And, much of your work, of course, in schools and with young people really focuses on hope and purpose. How have your own experiences shaped your understanding of hope and what it actually is, and I guess what it isn't? And why is your work so important for these young audiences?
Well, hope to me isn't just like wishful thinking. It's more of a disciplined way of seeing and acting in the world. Early in my life with this diagnosis, it kind of forced me to rethink my future. And I had to learn that hope is not the absence of hardship, but it's the presence of agency and purpose literally in the midst of it. So that shift from like, why me to what now has shaped everything I do with young people. So in schools, I've seen when a student is anchored to hope and purpose, they stop drifting. Igniting hope is like infusing yourself with well-being. And how do you generate hope in young people? Professor Charles Snyder, I'm sure you're familiar, developed this formula for hope in the 1990s. He said goals plus pathways plus agency equals hope. Now, goals. My first thing is whenever I get into a school, my goal is to help enliven young people to understand the process of goal making or goal creating. And then helping them understand that pathways are their ability to generate multiple routes, that they need to be flexible in their thinking, and obviously learn to develop alternate plans because life is shifting, right? There's nothing really certain. And then that last key component, agency, knowing that they have the power to actually affect change. And so in these seminars that I run, we teach practical rituals that turn those ideas into like muscle memory. So it's all about naming a compelling purpose, crafting like precise goals, and then building habits and obviously serving others. And also telling yourself a better story about who you're becoming. It's not about hype. It's literally about a toolkit. And why does this matter? Because students are navigating storms, comparison, anxiety, uncertainty, and without an anchor, they get pulled, obviously, in these really strong currents. So I guess with these tools, my goal is to help them hold position, even in rough seas, that they actually choose their direction, again, when the weather clears. And I've watched disengaged students become student leaders just by clarifying their purpose. I've seen attendance rise, resilience, well-being lift, when hope becomes a practice and not just a poster.
Yeah, it's incredible work that you're doing. And I really resonated with what you said there about telling yourself a better story. And I think a big connection, even for me, in that, as I was listening to you speak, is that quite recently, actually, I read the book, The Courage to be Disliked. I don't know whether you've read it yet.
It's on my bookshelf. I haven't read it yet, but it's there.
It's a really interesting book. And I read it for different reasons. I read it maybe thinking that it would support me with my confidence to stand up for what I believe in, or, navigate imposter syndrome in the business world. But what I actually took away from it was it's actually unpacking Adlerian psychology, which talks a lot about how, very boldly, Adler, I can't remember his first name, but his main, I guess, philosophy in psychology was that at times we can choose whether we move forward and we're practical and we apply strategies and solutions, or we stay in the story of being a victim. And I don't mean to say, because there are many different ways that we can be victims in a variety of circumstances, but you choose whether you let something consume you or whether you use it to move forward, and you choose a different outcome. And that, for me, was actually really powerful. And I don't think I ever assumed a victim role, but I very much used my prior story in life and in work and in childhood to excuse, I guess, why I was the way that I was, that maybe the less positive sides of myself. And so now I was like, I found it actually really empowering. So that doesn't have to be what defines me now.
That's awesome.
And even how challenging the world is doesn't have to hold me back. Like with your amazing story of starting your youth centre, which I'm sure came with many roadblocks and challenges.
Totally, yeah.
But you had the eye on the prize and on the future that you wanted, and you kept deciding for yourself.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we tell ourselves so many stories that aren't actually serving us. So we just need to change the narrative.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is we're all telling ourselves a story. So since you're telling yourself this story that isn't serving you, why don't you just tell yourself another story that can serve you?
Yeah, and choosing the right people around you, which is really important for young people, because I know that there's probably a lot of things happening from a neuroscience perspective of why that's so hard to discern maybe good fit people around you and surrounding yourself with the right influences. But I can't remember which Gabor Mate book it is where he talks about it's all around in those teenage years, making sure that, again, like we talked about with those the focus on boys in particular,
Yeah.
around these teenage years, with the right kind of influences, and keep holding your children close. I think that's what it's
Yeah.
called. Yes,
Okay.
and
Wow.
ensuring that when things are hard and we're struggling, that we're not gravitating towards other people who confirm, I guess, some of those stories that we're telling ourselves,
Yeah.
and I guess maybe steer us in a direction that isn't towards the goals that we're looking for.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Read, I'm sure you're familiar with the book Man's Search for Meaning by
No,
Viktor
I
Frankl.
haven't. No.
Oh, it's a powerful. I've read it 7 times, and it's only recently that I just found this quote. And he said, "When a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure."
Mhm.
And it pretty much, this book was written 70 years ago, but it pretty much describes this current generation.
Mhm. Mhm.
TikTok never runs out.
Mhm.
So you can actually spend 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days completely distracted and
Mhm.
never have the opportunity to sit and think about
Mhm.
where you're going and what your purpose. Because, to do that, self-creation can only happen in moments of boredom.
Mhm.
But we are so entertained all the
Yeah.
time now that we never had these times for self-reflection.
Mhm. Mm. And they talk, Johann Hari also talks about that in Stolen Focus. We can't ever solution find or
Yeah.
sit on a feeling that feels uncomfortable and consider
Yeah.
what that means. And thought about it this morning. I took my son out for a walk and I went, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to listen to a podcast. I was like, you know what? How about I'll actually talk to my child on this walk? He's
Yeah, I
only
know.
2, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, let's talk about all the things around us. But even as adults, we're so prone to doing that, to
Oh,
escape,
totally,
to
totally.
escape
Yeah,
it all.
absolutely.
Um, do you think that we, young and old, are more or less hopeful in 2026, and why?
I think the research will probably say that we're less hopeful. I
Mm,
mean, when you think about even the recent events that have happened, like we got bushfires in Victoria, the Bondi shooting,
yeah.
cost of living crisis, and then globally we've got like the Ukraine Russian war that's
Yeah.
happening, Palestine and Israel,
Mm,
civil wars in like I think it's Sudan, Syria, Congo, Haiti, and even Yemen, and then even what's happening in Venezuela.
mm,
So, and the problem with all of this is in today's world, it's not just one alarming issue that grabs our attention. It's hundreds all at the same time, constantly coming at us. And this barrage of like information can make it feel like we're in a state of like perpetual crisis all
mm,
the time. The challenge, I think, lies in how we process and prioritize this information with so much that is actually happening all at once. And it also then becomes difficult to discern what issues actually really require our immediate attention and action. And then we find, I guess, it struggling to calibrate the significance of each one of these events. And so my advice would be to actually and this is what I've done, and this has helped me in the last few months, is like I said earlier, get rid of social media and don't listen
mhm,
to the news. And I think that will actually cut your anxiety by half.
yep, I can attest to that.
Man, I read this book recently and it talks about the news, how most of it's not relevant. Now, if you have to ask somebody, like we're in 2026 now, go back 5 years, 2021, and give me 5 of the top news stories. And most people probably struggle to come up with 5. They might come up with maybe 1 or 2. So that shows how relevant all of this stuff. I mean, we get hundreds of news stories, hundreds of crises happening all the time, all around the world, and we hear about it all the time. But none of them are relevant to our current goals
Mm.
and where we're actually headed.
My question I was going to ask you before you went into your advice was, do we know too much?
I yeah, I think, yes. I mean, there's obviously, that's a nuanced question because there's obviously
Yeah.
um, great to
Things we
know
need to know.
things we need to know and things that we don't need to know. I mean,
Mm,
I don't need to look at 500 videos on what Donald Trump is doing today. You know,
That's right.
I don't need to have that all that information.
Yeah, yeah.
I need to look at what are my goals and what's the information I need to get to those goals.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we're just constantly paralyzed and never moving forward.
Okay.
But a lot of these crises, we actually can't do anything about it.
No.
But we can actually spend more time with our kids.
Yeah.
We can actually spend more time doing the things that we love to do. They're the things that we can do. So we need to probably spend more time on those things rather than these things that are really completely irrelevant to most of our lives. You know what I've
That's right.
found in cutting out all the news? If there's something that I really, really need to know, I mean, where I get my news is basically conversations with other people. Because
Mhm.
I've not seen a single news story in the bushfires, but I have conversations with other people and they talk about them. And I get that, and that's all I really need to know.
Mhm. Again, another link to our very similar thinking is I did the same thing years ago, and I had a lot of friends who said to me, "But how do you know about the important things that are going on in the world?" And I said, "Listen, if it's really important, I'll likely find out about it through the grapevine,
100%.
or I can
That's
switch
right.
on the news at any time if I feel like I need to know."
Exactly. That's
And,
right.
and I think it's not just the news anymore, like we talked about with that link to social media, is that the algorithm feeds us a lot of that same story that confirms what we want to listen to or watch a full video on, rather than, the reality of it. And I don't know, you're up in Brisbane. I know I'm on the Gold Coast with the cyclone at the beginning of the year. Everyone kept calling me about the cyclone. I
Oh,
was like,
no.
oh, it seems fine up here.
Yeah.
And so we
Yeah.
started to get worried, and so switched on the news. And it was very interesting to watch in 2 days, when we haven't watched news in years,
Yeah.
what changed in our household around the mindset of everybody. And I woke up the next day really worried. And my husband said, "How about we're not meant to, but how about we go out for a drive and we actually look for ourselves, Adrian? We live right,
Yeah.
right where
Great.
it's meant to be
Awesome.
hitting."
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
went out, and my son's looking around and he's going, "Where's the destruction?" And I said, "Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the news position themselves." And there was, of course,
Yeah.
some issues and definitely some areas that were
Yeah.
hit, but
Totally.
the news positioned themselves outside those places. And that I just noticed, even in that little bit of time, how that brought down my state of hope. Whereas before I was like, I can sense what's happening here, as opposed to what somebody else was telling me.
That's right. I mean, the news is highly incentivized to make us feel like the world is falling apart, because that's when we pay attention, right?
Yeah, that's right. They've
And
worked out the psychology.
exactly. And what you were talking about with social media, I mean, so much of it is propaganda that we
Yeah,
just
yeah.
constantly get fed, and
Mhm.
none of it's really the truth. To actually
Yeah,
think objectively
yeah.
is what we need to be helping young people with.
Oh, 100%. I always have to say to my husband, "I can hear what's happening on your algorithm there, and I'm a little bit
Yeah.
worried it's getting
Yeah.
very tinfoil hatty. I think you
Yeah.
need to
That's
start
right.
I
Yeah.
think you need to pull back there." And yeah, so,
Yeah.
I think, with discernment, we should
Yes.
consume everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
One thing I hear a lot in schools and when reviewing our staff wellbeing surveys is staff, particularly teachers, reporting higher rates of student disengagement or apathy, particularly at school and with their learning. And I can understand, myself as a teacher, that these challenges in connecting with students and motivating them can significantly affect our staff's feelings of self
Yeah.
efficacy and purpose in their role, which
Totally.
affects morale and culture and
Yeah.
relationships. And it's like a snowball effect to impacting the many different dimensions of our well-being. What are your thoughts or solutions for navigating these challenges or perceptions and really motivating young people to pursue this future that they actually care about, like what you have done?
Yeah. Totally. I mean, I think for me, motivation isn't the problem. It's
Mhm.
actually lack of vision. Because how can
Mhm.
they be motivated when they don't even know where they're going?
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I think young people don't know where they're going is called, you've heard it, there's a great book written on it, called The Paradox of Choice.
Mhm.
There are so many choices out there. For instance, if I can illustrate, it's like this. When I was like 8 years of age, my mum took me to the jeans store to buy a pair of jeans. And she would walk up to the sales assistant and say, "Listen, he's 8. Could we have a pair of jeans?" The sales assistants would go to the rack, pull out a size 5 or size 8 pair of jeans, I would go in and try them on. I'd come out and say, Mum, they fit. We would walk out. The process would take like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I walked into General Pants a few years ago to buy a new pair of jeans. And I go up to the sales assistant. I said, listen, can I have a new pair of jeans? She says, sure, what would you like? Button fly, zip fly, baggy, extra baggy, slim fit, extra slim fit. Would you like a pair of Diesels, Subies, Levi's, Lee's, True Religion? What color would you like them in? She gives me like 58 choices. Then goes to the rack. You know, the rack that's piled high with jeans. You need a ladder to come to reach them.
Yeah.
She pulls out for me, I'm not kidding you, 18 pairs of jeans. Comes over to me and says, here, sir, try these ones on, see which ones you like. I spend literally the next 3.5 hours trying on jeans. I'm confused. I don't know which ones I like, which ones I don't. After 3.5 hours, I finally make a decision. I pay the money. I walk out. And do you know all I'm thinking about then for like the next 5 weeks is? Did I choose the right pair?
Yeah.
You know? And so you tell the reason why young people often can't make a choice about where they want to go is because there's so much choice. Have you ever seen those career guides?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they're massively filled, right? So what I tell young people is this. I said, listen, here's what I want you to do. Is it easier to steer a car when the car is moving or when it's stationary? The answer is obviously when it's moving, right? Because when it's stationary, you're not getting anywhere. You can steer as much as you want, but you can get moving. So here's what I want you to do. In the next 10 seconds, like your life dependent on it, I want you to make a decision. I don't care even if it's the wrong decision. Just make a decision about something that you're interested in, something you like. It could be architecture, it could be law, it could be construction. I don't care. And as you're moving, you actually start to change directions, but you can actually change directions more efficiently because you're actually moving. I mean, there's this research that says that young people today will have about 35 different jobs during their lifetime, 7 different careers, and most of the jobs that they'll be engaged with don't even exist yet. So their goal in high school is not to have it all worked out. Their goal is to try and make a decision, pick a interest, and just start moving in a direction. Because I believe this: if they can gain, all they want to do is get discipline in a area, whether it's dance, whether it's swimming, whether it's music. Do something where you have to practice, and as you gain discipline, you gain wisdom. And wisdom then helps you make better decisions as to what you should do next.
You are reaffirming my mother's decision-making and her pushing of me in year 12. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I said, maybe I'll take this year off. And I think she could sense in my personality that would be a very bad idea. She was like, no, you're picking something and you'll start it and you'll probably work it out throughout that first year, and then we can pivot down the line. You'll learn some skills in writing reports and essays and completing assignments and deadlines. And so I chose teaching. I went, I guess that'd be fine, and ended up loving it. But I've always, for a number of years, been like, I was forced into that decision, and I'm still very glad. But it goes to show that maybe she heard you speak a really long time. And I think this is wonderful for our teachers with students looking to move forward. So it sounds like having that goal or having some kind of vision, whether maybe it's the vision of the feeling or how we want to live our lives as opposed to what we want to do.
That's right. Absolutely. And I think it's all about taking the pressure off. This isn't the thing, but it might be the thing that leads you to the thing.
I had some girlfriends around the other night to set goals for this year. And everyone was, it was meant to be a vision boarding night, but it just turned into a lot of talking, which is a way better outcome than us making vision boards. But we reflected on last year and set goals for this year. And I had one friend who found it really challenging. She said, I'm a live in the moment person. I don't see the point in this. I just decide I want to do something, then I do it the next day. And I didn't quite know how to share with her the importance of that vision or the goal, because she's like, I'm totally happy with how my life is.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we're all heading in a direction. And I think what goals do is they just help frame us so we don't get distracted by all the stuff that isn't relevant to our personal lives.
Okay,
so by constantly living in them, I mean, there's so many distractions and so many interruptions that come into our day, and goals just help keep us focused.
I always ask the really important question, well, are you happy with how your life is? And I asked this to Cass, and she's like, yeah, I love my life. And I was like, well, obviously that strategy is working for you. But if you sense, again, if people have lost motivation or direction, that it's
Yeah.
probably going to be a good solution for them.
I mean, totally. And also, the illustration I give young people is, why do they have goalposts on a football field?
Mm,
The reason is so you know which team is winning or losing. So
mm,
how do you know whether you're winning or losing in life if you don't have any goals?
mm. Yeah. And it's just having that idea of, like we said, where we want to go, what we want to do, how we want to feel, and actually igniting that conversation. What about those students who don't seem to be engaging with a subject area, or something, I guess, that's out of alignment from their vision and goals? Or how do we keep them focused on some of those things that we don't love doing but are important, and they're part of our duty as a student or part of the whole package?
Sure. Well, what I teach is that school is not about content; it's about character. And
Yeah.
there's this old proverb that says, "In all labor, there is profit."
Mm.
So even though you think this might not be relevant, it actually doesn't matter, because
Uh-huh.
what you'll learn in school is not about the mark that you get at the end of the year. What you're supposed to be learning at school is discipline, focus, how to get along with people,
Uh-huh.
how to
Uh-huh.
adapt, when to learn to pivot and when to learn to push. Those character traits will be with you forever. So
Mm.
that's what we're learning, and all works. Either it works for you or it works on you, but all
Mm.
work works.
It all has its purpose. And I even was thinking as you were talking then, when I was teaching, there was this discernment between teaching skills and content. And so I always had a big focus, mostly actually on teaching skills, because
Yeah,
anybody can consume the content at any one stage. So
that's right.
sure, you might not like Australian history, but those important skills of researching will likely need for the thing that you have as part
That's
of your
exactly right.
vision. So
Yeah,
shifting
totally.
and changing it there. Um, we often talk about purpose for students and young people, but what about for teachers and educators? Like I say all the time, that a career in education we know is highly stressful. The data tells us that. Well, it can be, because it's not for
Yeah,
everybody, and it
yeah,
may lead to burnout for a rising number of people. But
yeah,
we will be really hard pressed to find as purpose-filled and rewarding profession as the one that we work in. We are so incredibly lucky when we look at it that way.
yeah.
How do we remain hopeful and have a belief in our purpose when the challenges of teaching are so loudly shared on media throughout our schools,
Yeah.
but also experienced by our staff too?
Yeah, I think one way to remain hopeful is to remember why you chose this profession in
Yeah.
the first place. I mean, let's be honest. The majority of teachers that I've worked with chose this profession because they wanted to make a difference in young people's
Yes.
lives. But somewhere along the way, we lost our first love for the work. I mean, think about it.
Mm.
When people first began teaching, they were hopeful, exuberant when they ran out teaching colleges. And what led you into this might have been you watched a movie like To Sir with Love or Mr.
Yes.
Holland's Opus,
Yeah.
or even like Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
And you came out of these films brimming with hope that one day you were going to do the same thing. And I think, in the movie The Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man, the reason why he lost his heart was he kept on doing the same robotic thing over and over and over again. And I think that's what happens to teachers, like any professional in any field. It's easy to become overwhelmed with the paperwork, the compliance, the
Yeah.
reports, the registration, the curriculum development, even parental communication, which has obviously escalated today, and also navigating difficult relationships with colleagues. So in the process, you might have lost sight of your true purpose, and that was obviously to make a meaningful impact on young people's lives. But sharing your passion for a subject or witnessing the joy in someone's eyes when they really conquer a challenge
Mm.
is what really, truly matters. Now, I believe this 100% with all my heart. Ready? Work can actually be a prison sentence
Mm.
unless it has meaning.
Mm.
And once it has meaning, it will actually make you come alive.
Mm. I wholeheartedly agree with you and see, even in my sessions, when we just give our staff a minute to reflect on why they got here in the first place, why they continue to come in every day, the things that light them up. And it seems it's almost like a weight lifts off everybody. And I think, well, I know that what I would love to see happening in schools more is schools, individuals, leaders, teams offering more opportunities for reflection for those things so that we can
Yeah.
come back to our purpose. Because as we know, everybody's mindsets and mental health and well-being are at very different stages of
Yes.
of their journey. Maybe they're teetering on burnout, they've been burnt out and they're coming back, or, they're in the middle of really addressing things for themselves. But I think we just get so caught up in all of those extra things that you outlined that we forget to come back to these anchors, like anchoring to our purpose and helping to remind us all of the positive things that come throughout our days. So, you might, and your work certainly does that. What are some other ways that you think, even individually, or within teams or as a leader, we can really authentically, without just asking that same question, why are you here and why did you get into that? How do you think we
Yeah.
can come back to our purpose when we feel it's drifting away?
Yeah, I think it's getting back to that first love. It's like, what was the
Mm,
main reason that we got into this in the
yeah.
first place? And everyone will have a different sort of reason for that. But it's just reflecting back because it can become overwhelming with all this paperwork and compliance, etc. And I actually honestly believe, because I did a deep dive into AI over the September holidays. And I actually think in the future, work will actually become a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you think about what's actually happening, I mean, in China, there are no baristas anymore. They're all like AI robots. I've seen footage of AI robots painting, tiling, delivering room service. And
Yeah. They're at our
last,
sushi store. They
yeah,
deliver
there
the
you go.
sushi.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's right. Last June, Amazon um, actually deployed its millionth robot in warehouses, which is like
Brilliant.
insane. And it's
Yeah.
not just like blue collar workers. I mean, in China, there's a university has launched a hospital with 42 AI agent doctors and 4 nurses, and they're serving thousands of patients every single day.
Oh,
Where they
yeah.
submit their blood tests, they read the blood tests and say, okay, this is what you need to do.
Mm,
So,
mm.
and
It'd be
I've
the same
heard,
for lawyers too, I feel, at one stage,
yeah,
because the
that's right.
laws can all just be found in paperwork. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, apparently they're not with new recruits, paralegals, that it's almost like it's changed the shape of things where it used to
Mm,
be like lots of paralegals, middle management, and top management, but now it's like fewer paralegals because the AI is doing all these jobs,
mm.
heaps of middle management, and then a few at the top as well. And I heard, I was listening to this podcast, and this guy said that there'll be 10 billion humanoid robots on the planet by 2040.
Holy moly.
So, and every household
By
will
what
have
year?
at least by
2040.
2040, and every household will have one because they can iron now,
Yeah.
and do cut our grass outside. It's like insane. So,
Yeah. So, and we are so lucky again to work in a profession that requires us to have that very important privilege of giving away, like not giving away our heart, but utilizing our heart and our soul
yeah,
and our connection with these
being
young
human.
people. Yeah,
Yeah,
the skill development. Like, I mean, you can teach skills.
yeah,
Certainly, we can find content online,
yeah.
but that emotional intelligence and those leadership skills and those
That's right.
life skills certainly need to come from people.
Absolutely, 100%.
Much of the wellbeing work in schools at the moment is really focused on personal wellbeing, as we know. And a lot of schools I see are adopting with staff and students this emphasis on self care and looking after ourselves as a real antidote to the quite stressful working and probably learning
Yeah.
environments and our just general lives. In your view, is that enough?
Um, promoting self care is essential for
Mm,
personal well being, but I don't think it's sufficient on its own.
yeah.
I think self care practices, obviously like mindfulness or stress management techniques, can obviously help us cope with immediate pressures, but they don't necessarily help with the underlying systemic issues that can contribute to like stress, such
Yeah.
as workload, lack of support, or even like organizational culture.
Mm.
Um, and so I think if you want to create a really supportive environment in schools, we should focus on building a collaborative culture, providing adequate resources, and probably encouraging open communication amongst
Mm.
staff and students, and implementing policies that prioritize well-being at an institutional level.
Mm.
And additionally, providing professional development opportunities that equip educators with skills around their workload and enhance the teaching practices that can obviously further strengthen the overall well-being of the school and its community.
And I think I'll add to that, that big focus on workplace wellbeing I know is really important, but I think often what's missing in this personal wellbeing approach, we've got self-care, but not this deep work that you're doing, which is around finding our vision and our goals and our purpose. That really deep personal development work, and just offering those opportunities for our staff and educators to really reflect on those components of their well-being rather than just the bubble baths or the walks or the exercise.
Yeah, that's right.
It's really getting to the core of who we are, that deep
Yeah.
emotional well-being and spiritual well-being,
Yes.
as opposed to just how to, I guess, recover after a stressful time. It's knowing ourselves, how to manage ourselves, what's really important,
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
that amazing work that you do.
No, it's so true. I mean, when I first started doing this work with the NRL, I did it like a pilot program of my Men of Honor program with the Sydney Roosters, and they had some of the team wellbeing officers there, and one of the psychologists at the end of it said, "Hey, we'd love it, but there's just one thing we don't want you to talk about with these players." I said, "Oh, what's that?" Because in the Men of Honor program, I I mentor young guys around 7 key areas: exercise, nutrition, money, drugs and alcohol, sex, pornography, and masturbation. And she said, "Listen, we love what you do, but just don't talk to our players about pornography and masturbation because that's their personal life." And I said, "Well, if if you don't want me to talk about that, then I'm not going to run the session."
Mm,
And they were like, "Well, why?" Well, I said, "Because for me, it's their personal life that's messing up their professional life."
mm,
Case in point, Tiger Woods.
mm.
When Tiger Woods' personal life fell
Yeah,
apart, his professional life fell apart. It
yeah.
took him 10 years to get to a point where he could actually win another tournament
Mm,
after that whole thing fell apart. So I think we need to align our personal and professional lives together. They need to be aligned
mm,
because that's when we have peace. Peace is about alignment
mm, mm,
in our lives. The reason why so many people don't have peace is because there's so many different things to so many different people.
mm.
I mean, you talk to most young people, they've got like their social media account, but then they have their private social media
Yeah,
account
my
with their
niece and
parents.
nephew have that.
That's right. And then their private social media, and their
Yeah.
private with only just a few friends. So
Mm,
there are all these different things to all these different people. But to be truly authentic is
mm,
that's when you find really great peace in
mm.
every area of your world.
Yeah, and there's up to 8 different dimensions of our lives and our
Yeah.
well-being, and they are also interdependent. So, if we're struggling financially, that has an
Yeah.
impact on our relationships. Or if we're
Yes.
struggling in our home and our relationship, like we bring that to
Yeah.
work, our morale is lower,
That's
morale
right.
is contagious, it
Yeah.
impacts our team, that then becomes to impact the rest of the school and the students and the community. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's about seeing well-being through the lens of our whole life. And in wellbeing at work, it was the Gallup research that highlighted that our workplace wellbeing or our occupational wellbeing has the biggest impact on our overall sense of thriving. Likely, I think, because it's linked to so many
Yeah.
other dimensions,
Sure.
like our
Yes.
financial wellbeing and our
Yeah.
relationships and our emotional wellbeing, and
Yeah.
so on. But what it emphasized in there is that we are more likely to experience anxiety, depression, and burnout if the higher amount of dimensions of our life that are impacted. So while our
Wow.
workplace might be the priority here, if we're
Yeah.
struggling in other areas,
Yes.
we're more likely to experience those things that might be linked to the workplace. So it's a real nod to getting to know our whole selves. And that's
Yeah.
I'm glad you set that boundary, because we're not separate from work and life and that work life balance.
No.
It's all
And
one.
self-awareness is one of the key pillars, right, for emotional
Yeah,
intelligence.
yeah. That's
And
what's the
just to
first
be
one. It's the
Yeah,
gateway to
that's
the
right.
others.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
to actually be self-aware, and that's why, at the top of our conversation, I spoke about what I prioritize in terms of my health and well-being, in terms of exercise and nutrition, because all those things matter
Mm, mm.
towards our overall well-being, right? And
Well,
if
I
we can get
feel like
those
the
areas right,
Yeah, the foundation for you to actually have the clarity of mind to think and have that self-awareness, emotionally regulate. And went on a journey where I worked on all of those foundations first. And once I got on top of that, then this level of my brain opened up where I could practice a bit of mindfulness and
yeah,
self-awareness and do a little bit
that's
of
right.
personal development. But none of that could happen, and certainly can't happen now if I don't look after those basics first. And they seem like the low hanging fruit, but once we get into a bit of a rhythm with them, then access to the other wellbeing initiatives or strategies almost opens up like a door. It's like this, the next
Yeah.
corridor opens and those
Totally.
options are there
I'm
for us
so
to
glad you said
access.
that. And I don't want people listening to this to get overwhelmed and
No,
think, "Oh, there's 8 areas. What am I going to do?"
no.
Here's what I recommend is like do one thing in terms of like get breakfast right.
Mm,
Spend 2026 making sure that your breakfast is as nutritious as you possibly can make it.
hmm.
And then next year you can focus on lunch.
Yeah.
And the next year, and I tell you, and funny thing happens. You spend 3 months on breakfast. You go, you know what? I got this nailed. I could probably
Mm,
do lunch now,
mm. I
and
did the
really work
same
on that.
thing. Yeah, I
The
did the
one
same thing. I
thing.
did month by month. I tried to
Yeah,
habitualize something because a month I
yeah,
could do. So,
yeah,
yep, 3 meals. I did that for a month. Then once I was
yeah,
getting that, all right, water. So then
yeah.
add water in.
That's right.
Yeah,
Little
and then
things.
it becomes part of it. And so, yeah, I always say 1 to 3 things is plenty. And when I was health coaching way back in the beginning,
Yeah, well,
you'd have something to work on for 2 weeks, and I'd see clients every 2 weeks, and I heard it every time. I did great for the first week, and it dropped away by the second week. So that's why having somebody to
yeah,
check in with, or review a mental health
totally.
professional or a
Yes,
health
yeah,
professional to regularly check back in on consuming information in that area is something I'll suggest. Like, my big goal is to move away from social media. So I've now started to listen to everything to do with removing
yeah,
social
yeah.
media, because it helps reaffirm the message in my mind every day of why it's important.
I mean, I heard James Clear say on in his book Atomic Habits, he said the reason why most people don't stick to habits because they try and improve a habit before they've actually created one.
Yeah, yeah,
So just create a habit. I tell young people, just run for 1 minute.
yeah,
Just get dressed in your Nikes, run for a minute, and walk home.
yeah.
And once you can do that for 30 days in a row, then I want you to go to 2 minutes.
Mm, mm,
And once you can do that, then go to 3.
mm.
And in a year's time, you'll be in such great shape, it'll change your life.
Yeah, that's right. I spent 2025 just trying to get consistent with 4 days at the gym. Like, not, it just
Yeah.
had to be
Yeah.
4 days,
That's
because
right.
for
Yeah. Great.
years I've done 2 days, 1 day,
Yeah.
four
Yeah.
day.
Sure.
I'm
Yeah.
consistently inconsistent. That's what I say
Yeah.
about me. But yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
and that's really normal, particularly for anyone with young children. I feel like
Yeah.
they can really
Totally.
pull away from
Totally.
all of the
Yeah.
habits. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have to be progress over perfection, as they say.
Yes. Amen.
Glenn, for anyone who's interested in learning more about hope and purpose and this holistic approach to their well-being, do you have any resources that you recommend? I've got a few links here, but you might just want to share the ones that you sent through, and why they would be great for our listeners to
Yeah,
access.
sure. Well, every month, I like read a book and then I summarize it. So I've got a list particularly for educators, of 50 book summaries that I've done. I've summarized a book into 5 pages,
Ah,
and
how good.
I'll send you through that link.
Yeah, I've got them
And
all here.
yeah, great. And that's a great resource just
Yeah,
for people who are, time poor,
yeah,
that just want to get a quick read of a book. And then maybe after you've read the summary, you might think, oh, I'll go and grab that book. That sounds
yes,
pretty good.
yeah.
And I've also got like my latest 7 infographics. Every couple of weeks, I develop an infographic for schools
Mm-hmm.
that I hand out to all our clients. And I've got our latest 7, they're on like burnout, procrastination, how to handle these things. And they're great conversation starters with your students.
Yeah.
And I've also got a free positive parenting tips for parents in your school community that's got some great tips on how to parent and build that relationship.
So great. I love the idea of the book summaries. It's a really great way to, if you're anything like me, I can forget things if I don't go over and revise them. So it's a good way to cement it in your brain and then pass
That's
on those great
exactly
books.
right.
And you've got a lot
Totally.
of books behind you. So I
Yes.
believe you when you say that you've
Yeah.
read a lot of books. I'll read your book summaries. I always find it hard, but I have a 2 and a 6-year-old. I'm using it as an excuse, but
yeah.
it's always
I
hard to read a
I know
book.
what it's like. Yeah, I've got 4 kids, so I know exactly what it's like.
I find Blinkist is a good app too because it
It's
provides you with
awesome.
the book
Yeah,
summary.
I love it. I love
Yes.
Blinkit. I
Excellent.
often listen to one when I'm in the car and need to do a quick run. So
Yes.
it's awesome.
Yeah, I do in the morning while I get up before I go to the gym. I put it in again on Focus or
Yeah.
social media at the moment just to consume a bit of knowledge in a succinct, nicely packaged way.
Yeah, and on that, the VIA character strengths, one of my character strengths is love of learning.
Yeah.
So I find if I start my day with a book summary, my whole day is thriving because I operated in the strength straight away.
Yeah, me too. That is one of my strengths. Again, another
Oh,
thing that we
there you
have in common. Do you also like wine?
No, I can't say that I do.
Oh,
It's
no.
funny. Yeah, it's so funny because because I was an athlete, so I never really drank alcohol, and I've just kind of kept that going.
Yeah, how
So
good. It'll probably have to be on my vision board for next year to reduce my alcohol consumption. I don't drink a lot, but every year I only ever have I'm a very healthy person, but I do like to have a drink on a Friday night or over the weekend. And
nice.
we have a great
Good.
friendship
Yeah,
group up
totally.
here who love
Yeah.
margaritas. But every time
Awesome.
every time
That's great.
the Mother's Day questionnaire comes home, it's like my mum's favorite drink, my son's booze. I'll put it every time because it's this running joke. But I do like to enjoy alcohol in moderation. But I thought, how
nice.
great! I'm sure that we could chat more over, a coconut water or
Yeah,
something.
totally.
Glenn, we see a number of quotes posted and shared online on social media, not that you're on there, showcasing something thought-provoking or inspiring from leaders across the globe and throughout time. If a quote from you was circulating,
gosh,
what would it
yeah.
say?
Probably hope changes the world when hope means action. And for me, that embodies everything I do because it's not just enough to have hope, but it's actually take action on that and help you move forward towards your dreams and goals.
Having a plan for the hope.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When we did our vision boards, I had a little resource for everybody at the end that was like your big goal, and then under it was the steps that you'll take to get there, because that's one thing I learned in my journey was that an outcome goal isn't enough. So almost like a performance goal, you need to have your goals for the steps that will get you to that outcome.
Totally. And I don't even like calling them vision boards anymore. I like to now call them action boards.
Yes. Yeah. I love that.
What's the action that I'm about to take in order to help me make this happen?
Yeah, well, because one of my pictures on my vision board is the infrared sauna, I was like, well, we've got to put aside this amount every week.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got to research
totally.
which one we're going to go into. All of the actions are there.
Well, I can help you. I did lots of research.
Yes,
so I can help you with that.
We won't talk about it now, but I'm thinking about the glues and the resin and the wood and all of
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I will be in contact.
It can be a rabbit hole, so I'll help you out with that.
Yes, that's right. The podcast is also aptly titled Well-Led Schools, which is that play on words for schools who lead with wellbeing in mind. What is one thing that you think schools or school leaders can do to prioritize wellbeing or even hope and purpose that would make the most significant difference in their school?
Gosh, I think when leaders model authenticity and encourage honest conversations around mental health and stress, it creates like this safe environment where both staff and students feel valued and supported. And my belief is when people feel seen and heard, they're not just more engaged, they're actually more likely to take initiative to support one another. Because leadership for me is not about managing tasks. It's about nurturing the minds and hearts of those who you lead. And in doing so, that's when we can lay the foundation for meaningful learning and growth.
Yeah. All the other things follow when you've got those foundations in place. Really supporting your staff and their wellbeing and seeing them as people. I love the quote, people first, then pedagogy. So,
Yeah,
thinking
great.
about all
Love
of
it.
the people in your school before the curriculum or the
That's
outcomes,
right.
those other things
Yeah.
will come.
Yes.
And we're more likely to get people on board.
Yeah, that's right. Awesome. Love
Glenn,
it.
what are the best ways for the listeners to connect and engage with you if they want to hear more or have you come and speak in their school with students and staff?
Yeah, you can go to our website, thehopefulinstitute.com. Hopeful with 2 L's. It's a little play on words. They can also find me on LinkedIn as well. And I've just, my team has actually just set up, because we produce so many resources, we've actually just set up like a Pinterest page.
Oh, how good.
We can grab a lot of our resources that are there
Yeah.
and posters, etc., and infographics.
That's a good idea. I might have to steal that one.
Yeah.
Glenn, thank you
Totally.
so much for your time today, for the incredible work that you're doing in schools with young people, with sporting teams out there in organisations. The world is a very lucky place to have you in it. And I feel very lucky to have spent this last hour with you. I feel ready to go for my year. I feel hopeful, full of purpose. And I really want to thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity, and anything I can do, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Anytime. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this incredible episode of the Well-Led Schools podcast. The notes for the episode, complete with information and links to connect with Glenn and access all his incredible resources, are available wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode, and keep up to date with our new YouTube channel, which will be sharing all of our podcasts in video format. If you're ready to take the next step in creating a workplace where staff purpose and vision is ignited and they're able to sustain their well-being through attending to the multiple elements of what makes us feel truly happy, healthy, and well, I invite you to explore the Well-Led Schools Partnership Program. This 12-month professional learning and coaching program helps schools embed a well-being focused framework, strengthen culture, and ensure that staff thrive personally and professionally, all while driving meaningful, lasting change for both them and the students whom we work alongside. Learn more about the partnerships at adriannehornby.com.au/school-partnerships. Thank you so much for listening to the Well-Led Schools podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review if you like this episode. I look forward to connecting with you at adriannehornby.com.au. Here you can get in contact with me, learn more about my approach to supporting staff wellbeing in schools, and get all the information you need about how to work with me. I'm Adrienne Hornby. Thanks for your time and stay well.